Xbox is looking to streamline the process of bringing indie games to the platform. We have the games so far that we know that are coming out in December. It looks like there could be a brand new soccer game on the horizon with a new FIFA license taking on EA Sports FC, which I think would be a great thing. Capcom looks like they're bringing back Dead Rising. Looks like a new game is in the work, which is extremely exciting. And we have a rumor here for a big game that's going to be announced at the Game Awards. Before we get into it, if you enjoy daily gaming news and content, hit the subscribe button, share, like, all of that stuff. Let's get into the news. So Xbox has had a few issues so far this generation with indie developers, lack of communication, it being difficult for their games to just be published on the store through the ID at Xbox program. I would say overall, the ID at Xbox program does a great job of just getting games out there and getting people to know about them, especially the ones that do drop into Game Pass. I think they've done a good job of having titles that people potentially would have never previously checked out, heard about, or played, getting them to have them checked out and heard about and played. But there's definitely been issues. And we've seen in the last few weeks or months or so that they've actually made some changes. There's no more real NDA process for the process of getting your games published to the Microsoft Store. The documents out there are now public. And Chris Charlotte, the ID at Xbox chief, is talking about the indie game dev program and the fact that he wants to be bringing games to Xbox and doesn't want it to be a lengthy, painful process, which something absolutely needs to be done continuously so that isn't a hard process. On the indie side as well, where you're seeing some of the best games come out being indie games, you want to make sure that the publishers and the developers want to get their games onto the Xbox platform. This is an interview here with Jez Corden, Windows Central, again, talking to Chris Charla. And here is what he talks about: the ID at Xbox certification and dev kits and a bunch of other things. He says over the 12 weeks the teams work on a project, Microsoft provides a mentor from Xbox for every team who then meets weekly to talk about their projects. He's specifically here talking about they have a Xbox Game Camp, which is pretty cool here. We're just giving devs help and the resources in order to be able to get their games out there. It says mentory stuff. They will get to talk to luminaries like Ken Lobb, do QAs and so on. Getting that kind of access to folks from marketing, art, and coding is just huge. And the ultimate goal is to help start new teams and help people understand that game development is just possible. It's of course really, really hard and a huge amount of work. Nobody will say it's easy, but it's doable and possible. And he says, we've done game camp in a lot of different locations, not just in the US, but worldwide. We've done it in Detroit, New Orleans, and Africa. And we just completed one in Korea. So that's obviously cool, reaching out to different parts of the world and seeing what games are being made, helping them with the resources to be able to get their games published. Then he asked Chris Charla for about aspiring game developers and how they can get started. And he says, honestly, get a YouTube premium subscription. There's so much great content on YouTube for how to start game development. If you asked me to lay out a year curriculum, I would say watch an hour or two a day of videos about game development, how to use Unity, Unreal Game Maker, or Godot. You need that basis of understanding how games come together. You'll hear conflicting information because there are lots of ways to do it. You'll find yourself gravitating towards things that sound better to you. There's not one true path. It's about finding your path. And that brings up an interesting point because I've talked about game development before and the amount of games that are out there. And one of the major reasons is simply because it is actually not that crazily hard to get started into game development if you just want to learn how to use some of the different engines out there. Like he says, Unity, Unreal, all of that. You can find tons of content free online. Start practicing, start putting some hours in. You'll probably end up figuring out ways to start into game development. Then, of course, once it gets more advanced, you're going to need more help and resources. But that is the world that we live in right now, where game development, anyone at their home can just learn and start doing it if they really have that desire and passion to want to do that. Now, they also go on here to talk about Steam, and he recently asked about Steam, the Xbox ecosystem, the direction. And he says, I asked Chris Charla why developers feel this way, and specifically when it comes to publishing and it being difficult in the Xbox ecosystem, comparatively to Steam, which seems easier. And he says, I won't comment on Steam directly, but of course we hear the same things. Devs aren't shy about saying where they're having good experiences or places where they could be doing better. We take that feedback to heart. I can't express, whether it's public or feedback given privately. It gets forwarded around to the teams. It really gets taken to heart. And we're doing a bunch of things to address those issues directly. It says we are working actively to make it easier to publish on Xbox, faster to publish on Xbox across both console and PC. We don't want bringing games to Xbox to be a lengthy process. And says here, I'm probably not the best person to speak on Xbox Game Pass economics, but I can tell you that the investment we're making in independent games and ID at Xbox is not decreasing at all. Something that we've heard about, that the enthusiasm around Game Pass is actually not going down. People may say it is, but from what we have heard, developers want to get their games out there. And we kind of see the proof in the pudding with the amount of games that get dropped into Game Pass day one, especially from the indie side. And the fact that Xbox is promising even more next year, you can tell that people see Xbox and Game Pass, if you're a smaller developer, as a way to get your game in some sort of spotlight in a sea of so many games coming out all the time. It is extremely hard. I feel like indie games that drop into Game Pass have a much better chance than just putting it out there on Steam. If it doesn't hit the algorithm and all that, it may get buried and it may never get seen. Continues here to say, for consideration in Xbox Game Pass, it's looked at eagerly by the portfolio team, the Game Pass team, folks from the ID at Xbox team. And they can and do sign games for Xbox Game Pass that come through the ID at Xbox program. We obviously can't say yes to everything, but we want to make it as easy as possible for people to submit their games for consideration. Continues on here and talks about this is an Xbox strategy, which is basically getting everything into being an Xbox and getting games out there for many screens, which that alone will give a higher chance of somebody actually being able to see a game from a smaller developer. If they have more access and where they can play, there's a higher chance that they will actually be able to check out those games. So that was just an interesting article I found about ID at Xbox and them trying to make it easier for games to be published on Microsoft Store and on Xbox platforms. Something they obviously need to contend with is going to be versus Steam. You have the Steam machine coming out. Steam, in terms of indie, is the place to be if you want to try out all of the different indie games out there, because they have tons on there that just aren't anywhere else. So they're going to have to try to get those as well. And when you have lower powered devices, when you have handhelds, and you're going to have lower entry consoles, indie games that aren't as resource intensive are great games to play on those, and they make some of the most unique creative games as well. So I don't even think you're really missing out on too much if you focus a lot of your gaming on indie, because they do such great stuff. So that is a huge thing that we will see, I think, continuously going forward. And a lot of them are using Xbox Play Anywhere. And I feel like that is another thing where if you're a developer, you're like, if more people can play this game and there's another incentive to go out and purchase it by adding in a feature like Play Anywhere, they will end up doing that. So we'll see what happens going forward. And just if they do make major improvements in next generation, will we still see some of the complaints? Although there were few and far between, we saw a couple of them where it was just hard to get the games out there because of a lack of communication with the ID at Xbox team. Now, Game Pass for December. It is December. We're going to get some bunch of games this month. What we know so far, because there should be 2 more announcements, is a small list right now of games coming out in December to end off, I think, a phenomenal year for the service going into 2026, which will be an even better year. But here is the list of games so far that we know are coming to December. Right now, Marvel Cosmic Invasion is there day one. Today, console, PC, cloud, a game that I'm very much looking forward to, a Marvel beat 'em up from Dotemu, which they've put out some great stuff like the Streets of Rage series, so Streets of Rage 4 specifically. That was a surprise announcement. It's in the last Game Pass announcement. That's there right now. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage is there on December 2nd. You have Routine on December 4th, which don't know too much about this one, but this is that sci-fi one that looked really creepy, and it kind of looked like old school 80s or so, but with a weird space theme around it. Could be pretty cool to play. That one is there on December 4th. Then you have a game about digging a hole on December 9th, and Dome Keeper on December 9th as well, which this one actually looks pretty cool as well. I think this is like that tower defense one where it has those retro graphics. You're building out this dome and you're going through different levels, as well as there's resource management and stuff in this game as well, from what I do recall. So that one does look cool. These are all games I think that were shown off at a showcase of some sort or an ID at Xbox show. all look like they would be interesting day one titles. So already that's 5 titles coming to Game Pass in December, and we're gonna get 2 announcements, I believe, in this month for where they're gonna end off the year and then going into early January. And then you think about early January, we should end up having that developer direct where we're going to get more insight as to exactly what we can expect from 2026, which we know is going to be huge, but maybe we'll get some release dates in that show as well. All right, we have some news here about a game that a series I love. So this is exciting that a new game is going to be in development. This is Dead Rising. It seems like reportedly Capcom is working on a new Dead Rising sequel starting Frank West, which is great. Frank's awesome. It says here that this is according to a new report from MP First, which VGC can partially corroborate via their own sources, which claims that an in-development zombie action sequel will also see a return of the original protagonist, Frank West. And the project in question won't be a remaster or a remake, but a new main entry into the series. This is what the publication is saying. And it said that the new Dead Rising will see West head to Hollywood, with action primarily taking place within a massive enclosed movie studio lot. And the game's main villain forces Frank and other survivors into various trials, all in the pursuit of filming his perfect movie. I really hope this is true. We need a new sequel into this series, not just another remaster or remake or whatever, because Dead Rising is just a ton of fun. The plot that they're going for sounds exactly like it would just be fun, quirky, layback, kill zombie style of game. And yeah, I can't wait. I really hope this is the case, and hopefully we'll get an announcement. Maybe this will be something that gets announced at the Game Awards. You never know. But yeah, I'm hoping Capcom is actually working that. One game that looks like it will be announced at the Game Awards is something we've heard about previously, so I don't think this is like a huge shocker to anybody, but Silent Hill 1, the remake that we know is being basically I've heard is being developed here, is going to be shown off at the Game Awards on December 11th. This is from the Spanish website Mass Gamers, claiming that Silent Hill 1 remake is set for a reveal at the Game Awards on December 11th, citing an alleged Japanese insider who is saying this. And the translation reads, a Japanese insider indicated that Konami is preparing a first trailer for Silent Hill 1 remake, which would premiere during the Game Awards 2025. So they did a phenomenal job with the Silent Hill 2 remake. That's available now on Xbox. I think it's still 50% off for a while. So if you want to pick that up, go check that out. But Silent Hill 1 shown off at the Game Awards. And yeah, people will be very excited about this. Silent Hill has been back in a big way. You think about the Silent Hill 2 remake, Silent Hill F, Silent Hill 1 remake that is going to be coming. And I'm sure they'll continue to expand that series out as they've seen it makes some money. People want it. They're going to continue to do it. One game that needs major competition is the EA FC game. Previously, FIFA, they did not want to renew the license. So this comes us to some good news that I hope happens. 2K apparently is going to be making a new soccer game. And I would assume they would go after that FIFA license of some sort. But anyways, it says 2K promotion for former EA director intensifies with new soccer game rumor. And they say Take-Two hasn't exactly been silent on the rumors surrounding FIFA and 2K Sports. The company is allegedly open to the possibility. And even EAFC devs aren't afraid of the potential FIFA 2K competition. Now, there's nothing official, but this is the same thing like with Madden. Too bad that the NFL license has been extended with EA and everything, but that game needs competition. These EA sports games all need competition like we used to have back in the day with multiple different sports games. It forced all these games to be so much better, but there's really nothing out there now, so they can do whatever they want. They throw all the crazy microtransactions with the card ultimate team game mode that they focus primarily on. Of course, 2K will focus on that too, but maybe it'll help them both push the gameplay side of the things more forward if this does end up coming true. But to me, if you're 2K, it's no brainer. Get up that license, get the FIFA license, make a soccer game that is competitive, and I'm sure they would make a ton of money off it. And then as gamers, hopefully we'll have more competition in that scene. Finally, anti-cheat is always a big thing that's needed in these huge FPS games that come out. Of course, Battlefield 6, the biggest one this year so far. They've had their anti-cheat in there, and it's sounds like a pretty good job here, as This story here is saying that their anti-cheat has blocked 2.4 million cheat attempts. It's crazy that all people care about when playing these games, or a lot of people, is just going on there and cheating and winning that way. I don't even see why that's any fun, but for some people, it is a ton of fun. It says in a recent article published by Electronic Arts team behind Battlefield 6, it was revealed that a staggering 2.4 million cheat attempts have been blocked by EA's Javelin anti-cheat system since the game came out on October 10th. It was additionally noted that in the week after launch, 98% of matches were fair and free of cheater impacts, which is a good thing. They got to get that almost to 100%. 98 is very good, but get that 99.9%. That'll just be better for the entire experience. So that's huge. Hopefully it continues to work and the cheaters will not find workarounds to get through this. But it also does bring up that huge question, because we know Steam Machine's coming out. We know SteamOS is having a big push here to take on something like the full screen experience, or the full screen experience take on something like SteamOS. One of the big things that it does not have when you think about the release of the upcoming Steam Machine will be, you won't be able to play games like Battlefield or Call of Duty or Fortnite, which are the biggest games in the world, because of not having the anti-cheat available to it. So I wonder how big of an effect that will have, because you look at the amount of people that try to cheat and the amount of people that get blocked. If this wasn't there, if this anti-cheat stuff wasn't available, games on PC would just be terrible. The multiplayer side of things would not be fun, as you'd be going into matches nonstop and there would be crazy cheating. But on the video there, if you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Daddy! Yeah, perfect timing. I just finished. Thank you.